This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Hi, everybody. It is, this is the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. It is Thursday, March 27th, and it is 6:06 p.m. Welcome. I know that Ben is not going to be here, and Chelsea is going to be a little bit late. So we can get started. I do not see, is anyone present for public speak? I do not see anyone or anyone online, so I think we can move on. January meeting notes. Anybody have any comments? Edits?
I didn't read them. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a crazy week.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve.
Was that Shira?
Is that Shira?
That is Shira. I am Shira. Hear me approve. Hear me.
Do I have a-
Hear me make a motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor to approve, or any abstentions?
I'll abstain. I wasn't here. I wasn't present. I watched it. I wasn't present.
Okay.
I
will.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
also abstained because I wasn't there.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I raised my hand, but I meant aye.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. All right, great, thank you. I will remember to send those to Mary Ann because Barbara has retired.
Today is their
what?
for her.
Oh, is that
An
tonight?
abandoned building brewery, which
Yeah.
we're probably not all supposed to know, but I know.
No, I don't think it was a.
It's
Okay.
a public.
Yeah.
It's a public.
It's a public
event.
I mean, that.
Yes, exciting for Barbara.
It was announced at the city council meeting too for everybody.
Okay.
Anybody can come.
Sad for all of us who rely on her, or have relied on her.
Oh my God, she's amazing.
Oh, yeah. She was home last week.
All right, next up on the agenda is an update on the rent stabilization resolution, which I'm hoping somebody who attended the city council meeting could do. And then I also have a update from Liz on some of the rent stuff that's been happening in the city. Chaim, do you want to do the update?
I mean, Donna was there in person. She might be able to give a better summary of what the vibe was, but I can also do it.
Yeah, I was there, and there were several people who came in and gave some pretty heartbreaking stories about the impact of their rents going up. They talked about folks being who had lived here all their lives and had made Easthampton what it is, but now are being pushed out because they can't afford the rents as other people come in who want to be there. The resolution passed unanimously, which was great. And
Well, there was one no vote.
one no vote. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah. Chaim, you want to chip in?
Yeah. I mean, the no vote was JP. And he made it pretty clear that it was just sort of like his discomfort as a landlord with buildings that might be affected by the statewide legislation. So he just was, I think originally the worry was he was going to try to push it to committee, but I think the overwhelming push from the community to vote on this tonight, he was pressured enough to do that, but just made clear his reservations and voted no.
Well, and his reservations, I think, were related to more to this the small rental owner, not to corporations and LLCs. But he was talking about how, a person who had a house that they were renting and had to do all the upkeep, and it was more expensive, and that they would need to raise the rents, and so that was my sense of what he was saying as well.
Did you send out the resolution?
I did send it out, but for clarity's sake, does anyone want to just like summarize what it actually means? What is it authorizing?
So the resolution is a resolution that will be sent to the state. It's co-sponsored by Omar Gomez. And the resolution is to allow cities and towns to be able to set their own rent stabilization practices and policies. It doesn't authorize rent stabilization per se. It just allows cities and towns. So the process would be, it would go, and if the resolution, which supports, I forget what the statute numbers are, or what the bill numbers are, but Pam, do you
Yeah,
have numbers off the top of your head?
it's like 2501 and 18 something or 1083.
Yeah.
But I think so. The resolution that the city council passed was basically like virtue signaling, saying like, hey, Omar, John Velas, like support this at the State House. And Omar showed up and was like, hey, I'll make it easy for you guys. I'm already co-sponsoring the bill. So you should vote for it. And then if that passes at the State House, which, you know, we can be really skeptical about, it would go back to cities and towns as like an option that they can pass through a couple different mechanisms. I think that there's like a ballot initiative mechanism, and I think the city council can also vote on it and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'll also note, this is something that Connie wanted me to share with the group. Part of the resolution, or part of the process that they're also doing, is they're forming, it sounds like they're going to be forming a special committee of the city council to study rent stabilization home rule petition thing.
Say that again,
So,
please.
Um,
Rent stabilization.
home rule petition.
Right.
So in
Home
addition
rule. Okay,
to
thank you.
the avenue through the legislature to get the rent stabilization preemption undone, there's also the local home rule petition, which is basically a city asking for special permissions or powers at the local level that could supersede the state's restriction. So it's like a two-pronged approach. We don't necessarily expect either to be successful, but like it's about building the advocacy network and like the momentum on the issue and building pressure for the State House to like deal with it. But the reason that I bring it up, and I think it's important for us to talk about, is they were thinking of putting at least one person from this committee on that, as well as, you know, we want commercial landlord, a residential landlord. You know, we'd imagine someone who's a little bit like only owns a couple small buildings or something like that. And I don't know if that process is finalized yet, or if they've made all the decisions on like how big the committee is going to be or what that timeline looks like. But that's important to keep on the radar. There's one other part of it that I'm now. Oh, so Connie mentioned something as well, as like, she thinks that the rent stabilization, the rent issue isn't going to go away. And she was sort of signaling that she wanted to form a whole nother committee by ordinance, like a advisory committee by ordinance around rent stabilization, or like rental affordability. And I sort of expressed that like it didn't really make much sense to me for that committee to exist in parallel with this committee. But I also didn't want to speak for the whole committee to say like, this is definitely within our purview, please give it to us. But like, I think that it might be useful to express as a committee that like, we are ready and willing to take this on, if it's something that we decide.
Kayam, do you know if there are other similar resolutions for other cities and towns, or how many cities and towns are interested in the same resolution or similar resolution?
I don't know in terms of this legislative session. I know that like in 2022, there was a big push in Boston. And like a lot of communities in Eastern Mass, like Cambridge and Somerville, have all sort of, there's energy around this issue. I think in Western Mass, it's us. I think there's talk in Northampton. I think there's potentially talk in Amherst of something similar to what we're doing. So, yeah.
Would it make sense for us to reach out to our counterparts in these and other areas here?
Yeah, I don't think that I think that's a great idea. I just don't like, I don't know what that looks like per se, like what committees exist in those cities, and like where they're at in the process. Because we want to support, but also not be like, I don't know, telling them what to do.
Right.
Right. Well, maybe I could make some inquiries. When
There are
people-
housing partnerships in most of the other communities, so
Yeah.
it's not.
But what are we inquiring
Yeah.
about? I guess is my question.
Yeah, that's a good
I guess the question would be whether they're aware of the legislation and if they have anyone in their city or town that's looking at the
Also passing resolutions to
or
support.
passing resolutions, right, right. Or if they have, as Jackie said, a housing
They do.
a housing group, and could we get connected? Who's the contact person? Could we get connected? Not to tell them what to do, but just to sort of build a network of people so that when these kinds of issues are coming up, we can communicate with them. Hey, you know, that we've got this resolution at the city council and it passed, so we're sending it to the state. Just want to let you guys know and see if we can just have some, you know, just build a network so that when it comes time for a big coalition push, maybe we have it.
Yeah, so Amherst has their Affordable Housing Trust, and I have that, I can't remember her name, but there's a contact. And then Northampton Housing Partnership actually reached out to us like a year ago, and then we never,
Oh, yeah.
they never circled back. But we've actually had joint meetings of all the partnerships in the past. It's been a long time. And, you know, talked about what are we working on, and like, I mean, it would be a good opportunity for us to talk about our zoning report also, if we wanted to share any information about that.
There's that woman from Hatfield that showed up to the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, they came to the city council meeting, which was interesting. So we certainly could, yeah, I mean, we could certainly reach out and let them know what's happening. I guess I want to circle back to like the two things that kind of you brought up, which is that there seems like there like could be two subcommittees.
Yeah.
And so one, they're looking for somebody from the partnership to participate. And then this other question of whether or not would ask Counselor Denham to use us as that additional committee to work on this resolution. I do wonder how they would find another group of people interested in housing who don't.
It's not looking exactly like this one.
Yeah.
That
Right.
was sort of my thinking. And like the conversation sort of went in the direction where it was like me, Connie, and Tamara, and like Tom, like talking about just like what this could look like in the future. And I think Tom's idea was like we should just make the special committee of city council one of its duties to decide what to do with the ongoing question. But it's also just like really unclear about what that means to me. Like, because I sort of reiterated, like we at this group, we've been advocating for like the Pleasant View tenants and like the zoning reform, like we've been keeping an eye on all of this stuff. So I think Connie just thinks that we're like that we have a lot going on and that like we can't take on another thing.
Not
We're like,
anymore.
yeah, we're like done with our zoning report. I mean,
Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking too. But like, I don't know. She wanted me to share it with the group and like get this like the collective thinking of the housing partnership on that.
and can you remind me again what they want though? What is it they want, just to like keep it on top of this stuff and like get ready to, like, if the state passed the legislation, figure out what that policy would look like? Or
I guess, and like be the advisory body for that going forward or something. Like,
Maybe we should just ask her to come to the next meeting and talk about it.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, yeah, if we weren't the advisory body, I'm not sure who would be the advisory body, because that's sort of our job, is to be the housing advisory body, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's where Donna's idea of like looping in other communities could be helpful if we were trying to, if it passes and we are going to try to craft some type of policy, we certainly would want feedback and input from other communities so that, you know, I mean, I think sort of one of the dangers of this kind of stuff is like every town has its own rules. So like there would be, I think, some benefit in trying to have like some similarities between communities.
Or just to know who's in support and who's not.
Okay. But if they do want to put together like a small committee to look at the home rule petition, and they want someone from the partnership, we could decide that tonight who we want that person to be, in case that moves faster, or do we want to hold off on that?
I mean, I mean, part of me thinks that we should wait on like a direct communication from Connie about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, we're ready.
Yeah.
Where's the meeting?
I mean, I know that like in that meeting, they were talking about getting the request put in the next city council packet. So,
Okay.
Definitely next meeting.
All right. So maybe we should plan to talk about it in April.
And I do see Connie pretty much every day because I work with her. So I can try and get some more clarity.
So the request that they're putting in at the city council meeting is a request to develop a subcommittee?
Yes, yeah. Or to form a special committee of the city council.
To look
I'm
at the
pretty
whole-
sure then that goes to Rules and Government Relations Committee of City Council.
Process.
But doesn't that have to be only city council members?
Not necessarily.
No,
And other,
They can create special committees.
Just like they're asking someone to sit on ordinance while they
Yeah.
look at the zoning
yeah,
packet from here, they
Yeah.
can do that.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Or they can just create a special committee, because
Right.
I chaired a committee that was reviewing all the city's ordinances for bias, and we just had community members on it, but it was a city council committee.
Yeah.
But they're like their committees, yeah, those are city
Yeah.
council members.
That makes sense.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll invite Connie to come next meeting, and we will hold off on anything else until we get a direct request for something. Okay. I did want to update you all. I've had a couple conversations with Liz Pluff, the community health social worker, about the work that the city's been doing with the owners of 22 Nashwanik Street, and actually a couple other landlords. And so I don't think I got an update, but there was a meeting last night. So the mayor and Liz have been very successful in getting the owners of 22 Nashwanik Street, which is also known as Pleasant View, to pay attention to what's happening. They've met with them. They were apparently a little upset about the bad press that they were receiving as a result of the rent increases, which energized them into meeting with the mayor and Liz. And they were meeting last night with 13 of the residents to try to come to an agreement. They offered to basically take some money off the rent. But it wasn't a lot. It was like $100 a month. And I think the residents were looking for a little bit more of a reduction. So I don't know what the outcome was, but there's at least been some conversation, and there's been some acknowledgement, I guess I would say, that maybe things didn't go quite as smoothly as they hoped. And like the property manager was doing things that they didn't know about. I don't know, whatever. So there's been some positive stuff on that end. And then there's also some other investor owners from New Jersey that were owned a bunch of multifamily buildings that were doing a lot of no-fault evictions for folks. But they've also been in communications with the mayor and Liz, and that seems to have at least eased up a little bit.
What were the evictions?
They were just basically like, we don't want you to be our tenant anymore. thank you, goodbye.
Oh.
So they were no fault. There was nothing wrong. They went,
Yeah.
but they wanted the units. They're, they want to probably
Fix them up.
and charge more rent. But that I think has slowed down a little bit. So just, I think she just wants us to be aware that these things are happening, particularly as part of like the rent stabilization resolution work. But I think, in general, investor owners in Easthampton is increasing, and it is resulting in rent increases and people being displaced. And as we all know, there's no place to go. So
Yeah,
Right. We lost Shira.
I don't think it's just Easthampton either.
it's definitely not just
No.
Easthampton, it's everywhere. But the problem is it's everywhere. And so, cheers back. When you get displaced from Easthampton, it doesn't mean you can go find a place somewhere else. Because it's happening, there's just there's no affordable units anywhere. So, but that was just her quick update. Any questions about that or anything else people want to know that I could relay back to Liz? She wasn't able to come tonight. Otherwise, I think she would have provided the update herself.
Cool.
Well, there was an attorney who came to the city council meeting who said he had been working with some of the tenants from Pleasant View.
Yep.
Do we know if there were any legal actions filed or injunctions or anything like that? Anything like that?
No, she said that there was one, I did ask if any of the tenants were in court. She said there was one open court case. And there was,
Pleasant View.
there was one situation where the lease was still in effect from the previous landlord owner, and the new landlord was trying to do something that I think was the reason for the court case. But she did say that they did have some, they were getting some legal assistance and advice for that particular property. Okay. Moving on to ordinance subcommittee. So we went to our first ordinance subcommittee meeting. It was Kyan, Ben, Lindsay, and I. And it went really well. I actually was not prepared because I fully expected the room to be full of Aquifer public speak folks. There was nobody there. Oh, there were two people there. There were two people there. But we did not spend an hour listening to Aquifer Protection public speak, which is what I was fully expected. And so then Connie launched into the report, and I was like, okay, I'm not ready to talking about this because I thought we were not going to get to this tonight. So that was a little embarrassing. But we got through a whole bunch of stuff. We basically went through, we stopped when we got to basically the more zoning-y part, right? We spent the first meeting mostly talking about the language changes. So, in the report where you get to part 5, creating flexibility in land use, that's where we stopped. Tamara Smith was not present. So it was just Salem and Connie. But in general, they were very agreeable to all of the things that we had suggested up to that point. I mean, pretty much without a whole lot of discussion. I don't know. I'm Kyan and Lindsay, you feel free to jump in, but it was pretty smooth.
Yeah, it was just, yep. It was a lot of clarifying questions.
Yep.
And Connie was really good at just kind of asking us for reasoning about changing language, character questions, character and all that. It's all just, we will clarify.
The one thing that did come up that I'm hoping Allison can help us with tonight is in both the fair housing section and the character section, we make suggestions to the smart growth zoning overlay district language. And we weren't clear at that first meeting whether or not we actually could change that language or if it's required to be that way by EUHLC.
Yes. So I did look through and compare what's being proposed versus what's in both the statute and the Code of Mass Regulations, as well as the guidelines or guidance that the state has issued. And the only problem or suggestion that was inconsistent or problematic, however you want to phrase it, was the first one in that modifying passages to better reflect fair housing. So that's 7.464. The language that's being proposed to be stricken is required to be included.
Okay.
So everything else though I didn't see any issues. However, if there is any changes, it has to go to HLC before the city can formally adopt it. Yeah, they have to approve it.
Okay. You didn't think the parking was going to be an issue?
No, not at all. No,
Right.
no. In fact, the regulations were very clear that you can make parking exceptions in these cases. Yeah.
All right, so that's good. Thank you for clarifying that. So we'll have to change that back or take that part out for 4.464.
Are we allowed to at least change it to EOHLC?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
They had changed in their regulations in the CMR to HLC, but the statute still says DHCD. But the trend is definitely to update that.
Okay.
And that appears in a lot of places, so.
Indeed, find, replace.
Exactly.
So what was it that is, what specifically is it that is required to be included?
So from the mass regulations, smart growth zoning shall contain provisions specifying the method by which such affordable rents or purchase prices are computed. And the language that we have was what was in the guidelines from DHCD at the time in their model bylaw. And it's in like everybody's smart growth zoning ordinance.
Suggest for.
It's just, I think if we remove it, the
okay.
level of specificity that the state is
Oh,
looking
okay.
for won't be there.
We thought the level of specificity was unnecessary because
right.
So,
all
yeah,
that
it's
stuff
one of
that's
those
it's
funny,
written
annoying
everywhere
stuff.
else,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, okay.
Well, it is and it isn't. So there's specificity in other places around who's eligible, but not necessarily on how the rent or purchase price is calculated.
Okay.
There is like a nuance to that. And this is what addresses it.
Okay.
Because it was so specific, I was like, this had to have come from somewhere. And I was able to figure it out.
thank you. So so the next meeting is Tuesday, so then we'll be able to wrap that section up on Tuesday.
Thank you.
So at the last meeting, I was the spokesperson and had to read aloud every single line, which is fine. Because Connie really wanted us to really read it out loud. But Kayam, and I know Ben's not here tonight, but when we get to the next section, I feel like you and Ben are the subject matter experts here, not me. So we can connect with Ben before Tuesday, but I'm hoping the two of you can handle that part. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I do want to add, I am not able to make that meeting,
Okay.
which Connie is aware of, but Dylan should be there.
Oh, okay.
And able to report back, and I can always watch it back too.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions about that process?
Thank you for doing that, all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went.
Oh, yeah, just
Oh.
another question, but I was
Yeah.
gonna make a comment that, a community member came and spoke in strong support. Like that
Oh,
was,
yeah.
that was the public speak. It was a very strong support And his name is Sean Abbott, and he reached out to me after I knew him through other means, and he invited me and whoever wants to come. They're having a social, he's part of the local Strong Towns organization, and they're having a social tonight at 7:30 at Abandoned Brewery. I think I'm gonna,
Tomorrow's party is happening.
tonight,
Yes.
oh, I can do both
Yeah.
parties at once.
No.
So perfect.
They're probably surprised
Nothing
by
like
how
hitting
many
two
people-
parties at once. So I thought I would, and he said this is a group that could be strong supporters of what we're working on and vocal. So I was planning to go and meet them.
Great.
He wants to join me and see Barb. So it's perfect.
What's the name of the group again?
Strong Towns. It's like a national, movement, and this is our, I guess, our local chapter.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you. Yeah, let us know. That's great. Yes, I forgot that we had this, very enthusiastic, positive spokesperson.
He said his only complaint was we didn't go far enough.
And then, we did have one person had some concerns, and then, I think we mentioned there was the assistant planner from Hatfield that was just like interested. So
Yeah.
that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
She added me on LinkedIn after, so I can keep her, or I can stay connected, and let her know when our meetings are.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, so that's moving along. Connie had asked me to reach out to the chair of the Aquifer Commission after their last meeting, and I confess I have not. But I'm also feeling a little bit less like I need to because they didn't all show up to the ordinance committee. So I was like, well, maybe they've just moved on from this.
I saw Mike Serswick, who works for
he's-
the water department.
Yeah. Is he well, Barbara didn't know who the chair was, but that's the contact information.
Yeah, well, he works for the city.
Oh, okay.
And I know him from 100 years ago when we were on master plan committee together. And I ran into him at Abandoned Building Brewery, where apparently all things happened. So I chatted with him about it, and he didn't seem to have any concerns about the zoning stuff. I just said, that if something's gonna destroy the aquifer, we're not gonna support it. And he went, yeah, I know.
Okay.
So
So
that was good news. from
I
him.
did go to their very well-attended
Yeah.
meeting and clarified kind of procedurally where this was at. And I
Oh,
think
good.
that might have
Calmed them down.
calmed people a bit. I just think it was misrepresented in the press release that went out, like where we were actually. So
Right,
people
that's what
were
it sounded like when
confused.
Connie was telling me what happened.
Yeah. So people were thinking it was more imminent than it
They
is.
thought we were gonna go build a house right.
But they were like, you're moving too fast. I'm like, but we're at the very beginning.
Like, move it real slow.
Moving real slow.
I was doing this for a year and it's gonna take another 6 months.
Yeah, that's right. If there's anything that's gonna impact the aquifer, then
Yeah, we support the aquifer.
we
Right.
support the
Yeah,
aquifer.
yeah.
We'd like to drink the water here too.
Also need water. Okay. All right. Anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay, great. What else is on the agenda? Oh, just a quick update on special municipal employee designation, because
Yeah.
also at the ordinance
Oh,
subcommittee,
yeah.
if any, I think you probably noticed because you brought it up.
Oh,
They
I-
did move it forward. So, Connie presented that there actually were multiple committees that were left off the list to get special municipal employee
Oh,
designation,
okay.
not just us.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Have updated the list and we're sending it back to city council. So it's working,
Can you
slowly
remind me
working.
what that was
Let
about?
me explain to you.
Yes,
Okay.
Lindsay is the expert
I can
on
give you a little,
this issue.
so I'm interested in being the ZBA, so the mayor said, reach out to ethics. And ethics came back to me, you're fine in the ZBA, but on fair housing, you have an issue. Because you're not a special municipal employees, you can't talk to anyone in the city about
Right.
anything, unless you're talking from fair housing. So like in my, I'm a realtor, so I can't talk to the fire department about coming to do a smoke inspection, for example.
Gotcha.
So that's no good.
Because we have that designation or?
We didn't have it. So we,
I
so
just want it for the
so it
minutes.
was
I
much
wanna
more
make sure I know what I'm
restrictive to be
saying.
on this committee, like,
Yeah.
in any of our work outside of here, we wouldn't be able to talk to the city about like things that completely not related to this meeting.
That makes no sense.
It
Right,
does
it
make
was
no
just
sense.
it was an
It doesn't make
oversight.
any
I
sense.
was listening to your conversation.
No,
about
she
that.
wrote me a whole like decision on it. Like,
And Lindsay sent it to me and I was like, this cannot be true. Like, I was like, what?
you were like, no. I'm like,
You've been breaking the law.
I asked her for a written decision. This woman wrote me like a written decision. Anyway, so she was very helpful. She spent a lot of time on it.
So at this point in time, we are not allowed to speak with other city officials regarding
Any other
anything
business.
other.
That has been updated.
If it's like something you have a financial stake in, so it like your
No, but she said even
personal life.
organization, like even like in her work, with it, even though it's a nonprofit.
Well, it's your job though, so like they pay you. So anything. Like,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think anything that is like related
Do
to
they
your
pay- do they pay you?
employment and or
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Outside of the city would constitute a conflict of interest for
Outside
the
of
purposes of the law.
city.
Yeah, so if you, like, as Lindsay said, she's a realtor, so if she has to communicate with anybody in the city about realtor-related business, technically, she
That's a
shouldn't
violation.
because it's a conflict of interest.
Or like if I called Liz wearing my work hat,
Yeah.
right? And wanted to talk to her about
Yeah.
22 Nashwatic Street, that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, the main people I talked to is like the water department for final readings and the fire department for smoke. So, but that's a conflict.
So where
really
is it
weird.
now? Has
But
it
we
been
will soon not
updated?
be a conflict.
It's going
Okay.
back to council, I think, to be voted on. Maybe it already did. The ordinance committee moved it back to council.
Okay.
So if we're not wearing our hat as a fair and affordable member, we can talk to the city,
Well, you will be able to once they update the list,
but
but
we can't do it now
currently we're not supposed to.
for any reason.
No,
Or any other
none of-
work, any work reason, financial
Yeah, if
investment.
you had like a pothole concern, you could call the city. about
Yeah.
that, But
Yeah, not for like a other profession that we're getting.
So if you were you had a client you were representing, you couldn't call Liz on behalf of your client and talk to Liz about your client. It's kind of crazy. So this is why apparently if you have a special municipal employee designation, you don't have this.
Yeah, then you can't, you just can't.
Now
talk
I
about
understand
this.
that, the legal thing I understand, because then the conflict is pretty clear. You can't be serving the city and suing the city. So that makes sense.
No,
but
no, just
have a
talking.
conversation with
just can't
somebody.
talking. Yeah. No, it doesn't make sense, but.
So thank you, Lindsay, for bringing this to our attention because it pointed out that apparently there was a whole bunch of other things
Out of
out
compliance.
of compliance that they were able to correct.
Yeah.
So now the list has been updated and it probably hasn't been updated in forever.
Yeah.
And so it'll be fine.
So now we're okay,
That will be
Yeah.
okay.
Well, we will be.
once the city council approves. it.
Yes, which
Yeah.
I didn't ask Connie when that was happening, so maybe it did already.
I don't think there's gonna be much opposition.
Yeah.
Public speaking.
I think I saw it on that.
Oh, the other thing, we had talked about is making our proposal like available
Oh.
somewhere on the website. or-
Right, do we want,
Then again?
so Lindsay had emailed me, I was like, I can't find the zoning report anywhere online, and I was like, it's because it's not.
Yeah, but someone asked me.
So should
for
we,
it.
could we put it on the planning, like under studies and whatever? It's draft, I mean, I guess we could put draft, like it's
Draft.
draft
On
or,
every single page.
yeah, I mean, it'll have to be designated as
Yeah.
a draft or document, but yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay.
You all don't have a page on the website, do you?
we don't have a page. We have
We
like
do.
our,
There's minutes posted.
yeah,
somewhere.
that's true, we could put it on our page, well, we can't. The planning
Somebody
off-
can.
The planning office.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I mean.
Yes, you could put it on
the
our page.
Logistical part
Yeah.
could definitely be covered.
Yeah, someone had asked me, where can I access it? And I was like, besides me emailing.
Yeah, if we could put it on our page, that's true, where our minutes are and
Yeah,
stuff.
that would be.
And have somebody labeled draft.
Well, it's not our draft.
That's what I was saying. It's actually our proposal.
Our proposal.
So it's a final proposal.
Or, yeah, I mean, designated.
And there
as
could
a
be some language around
proposed.
that.
Yeah, this isn't this is a proposed adoption. That's.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a related documents section at
Mm-hmm.
the bottom of our page where we have like our overview and mission and stuff.
Okay. Yes, thank you for reminding me that. So we talked about this a couple of months ago about the chair. I am happy to remain the chair, but if anybody else wants to be the chair, that would be okay too. So I'm just
I don't know enough to be the chair.
throwing it out there again. Okay.
Yoshi should be chair.
Oh my God. I don't know that I have the bandwidth until after May because I'm finishing a class that I have to drive to Burlington for twice a week until like May 10th.
Burlington? She's getting her PhD at University of Vermont, so.
Oh, very nice.
Do we want, I mean, we don't have term limits and we don't have to go to this conversation tonight, but like we could also like every January revisit this. Like, I feel like
Sure.
we get out of habit of like talking about this. And so, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm like,
Trying to hoard the chair.
yeah, exactly. Like holding on to this powerful position. So we could revisit it every January. If
You're
that-
doing such a great job, Jana.
for the last, really long time.
Yeah.
You're too effective. but nobody else-
16 years, I don't know. Luke is 16 and we moved to Easthampton literally like 18 years ago, like tomorrow.
Mhm. And
And-
right away, I was like, Jana, have I got a job for you?
Well, and we had, well,
You're so good at that, Jane.
I think Jim was our chair when I first started
Yeah.
and then Pat Clark was our chair.
Yeah, oh God. So that's not gonna be you, though.
Yeah.
They both passed
They
away.
both
since.
passed away. All right, I'm gonna put on my somewhere calendar that we're gonna revisit this every January until somebody else decides to take it on.
Okay.
All right. I don't think we have anything else, though. I know Donna has an update about the habitat question we had last time. So any other,
I also had a couple things, but
okay. Whoever wants to go ahead.
Oh, so I did contact Megan and I sat on the family support committee. So I was involved with mentoring a family who was buying a house. And so I contacted her and she actually sent me a copy of the deed rider for Alita's property. And she said Alita was the first house that she had worked on when she became
Aw, the director.
yeah. So I think the question was, what happens in the event of death of the owner? So it's an affordable home and it has to remain an affordable home. There was some discussion in the last meeting about whether there were time constraints, but there's nothing that indicates that there are any time constraints for this particular property, or any of the Habitat properties. The deed rider a new deed rider has to be executed when the property passes to someone else, whether by sale or through an estate sale or whatever. So it has to go to an eligible buyer and it can only be sold for a certain amount of money. There's there's a way in which they calculate what that maximum amount that it can be sold for is. They call it so there's a resale price multiplier and a resale fee. There's a base income number, any approved capital improvements. I mean, a lot of this. So if you're making capital improvements to a Habitat house, you get permission to do that. Or you don't get credit when you go to sell the house for your costs there. It doesn't raise the cost of the house. So the purchaser is 70% of the area median income is a creditworthy eligible purchaser. So even if she has a family member who's living there, because it was her property and the deed runs to her, she can't just divest that deed to her family member. It has to, unless that family member isn't eligible.
Is not eligible?
Is eligible.
Okay.
Is eligible. And the monitoring agent, so her monitoring agent, that's in here somewhere. So the monitoring agents are the director of the local initiative program, DHCD, 100 Cambridge Street in Boston. The office of the mayor, city of Easthampton, and Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Did she give you a sense of like what's happening with that property or?
She did not know that Alita had passed.
Oh, okay.
So
Now she knows.
geez.
now she knows, yeah. and she was sad about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, who's she?
Megan, who's the executive director of Habitat for
Oh, okay.
Humanity Pioneer Valley.
yeah, so in this document, I sent a copy to Jana. The document is a public record because it is filed along with the deed. Good God,
What's happening?
I don't know, I'm watching what's happening out here and I'm worried about a car down there. And a police officer parked behind it. So in order to sell, they have to notify the monitoring agent and the municipality in writing of the owner's intention to convey the property. That's called the conveyance notice.
The owners did.
But, so it doesn't sound
The
like
person
any,
representative.
the family, nobody's called Habitat, so that's kind of interesting.
Well, I think it's just her grandson.
Yeah.
And he's,
Is he living in the house?
I don't know. I don't
There's
know.
been cars in the driveway.
Yeah, and like people doing stuff, clearly. I
Oh,
saw a
some-
big pickup truck there.
somebody's been
the other
there.
day.
They might be taking, they might be clearing out the unit. Thinking that, like, the grandson may not know that this rider exists.
He moved in with her. They both knew it was a Habitat house. Like
Oh, okay.
he was still in high school.
Uh-huh.
So
And he's still there? You
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Well,
I
at least
don't
now
know.
Megan knows, and so
Yeah.
Megan can always try to find out what's happening with the property.
Yeah, so the monitoring agent does, ensures the marketing efforts are made to locate an eligible purchaser. They also have the right to, if there's no eligible purchaser, they can buy, the monitoring agent can buy the property and then sell it to an eligible buyer. There's some time limits here. They have the right to purchase the price at the maximum resale price, and then they can resell it. But in any event, the deed shall clearly state it's made subject to the deed rider, which is made part of the deed. And so any conveyance has to have the deed rider with it, and it has to be this deed rider or substantially the same deed rider.
Okay.
Does that help?
Thank you. Great. Any other updates?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to attend the City Council Ordinance Committee meeting on Tuesday night, but I was wondering if anyone else had heard what happened with the short-term rental ordinance.
Full disclosure, I have a short-term rental in my mom's house. We rent out rooms. And so I've been part of that process. So I'm not a non-biased person to be discussing it, but I can just give a,
Yeah.
and you were there too, but basically there's an ordinance. They're still working on the ordinance language. There's obviously concern, that I was gonna bring up too, because there's obviously concerns for our committee and fair housing, and affordable housing. And I think that affordable housing plays into both sides, because a lot of owners use it as a tool for affordability in their own home.
Yep.
However, there's also a lot of concerns expressed around investors purchasing and taking housing stock off the market. So I think in the ordinance committee, that's kind of been the focus, to balance those concerns.
Yeah.
So there's so far there's been a large group of short-term rental owners showing up. There was one person who came just interested and concerned, but mostly from what he heard in the room, he wasn't really concerned about the people renting out homes on their own property, more about this investor. So it's kind of, even if that hasn't happened too much in Easthampton, I'm not sure if it has or it hasn't, but making sure that any ordinance helps alleviate. So it's kind of, I think that's where they are, is like working on balancing those concerns.
Working on like a registration tool or a like.
Well, there's actually no ordinance around it right now.
Okay.
But the city has been collecting tax money on it since like 2019. So,
Ooh.
so basically what happened was the new, building commissioner, sent out cease and desist letters to everybody.
Oh.
And, which came to a shock to a lot of people because, Everyone thought they were doing the right thing. A lot of people had come to City Hall and even asked if they could. And so it was very shocking. And so then it was just like, well, there's no ordinance on the books or zoning. So there needs to be, so yeah, now they're looking at like a way to make sure that everyone's registered with the state now, but making sure that people are registered with the city, making sure that fire and safety, that they're safe. So making sure that we have public safety's input, and also looking at this writing ordinance that is solving the problems that people are concerned about, which is obviously investors by taking housing stock off the market
Right.
for rentals and purchasing, but also there's the concern from owners of allowing it to be a tool for affordability in their own properties.
And there were two specific pieces that I thought were, I guess, the most controversial, and that was the banning of ADUs being used as short-term rentals, which I don't know if that's stuck. And okay, and then also the limiting one ADU per legal owner in the city. Did that stick?
No, neither. So I think the biggest discussion kind of was like whether these limits need to be there. Like, are they solving the problem that needs, like, so Salem had suggested like just doing away with the limits. Connie seemed more uncomfortable with that. Tamara was weighing it all out. So that was not sticking. Because of course it's easy to say something, but then there's like all these scenarios.
Right.
Like for example, I'm on the deed at my mom's house, but I don't live there, but she's owner occupied. What if I want to do it at my house? Like, then I'd be restricted because so there's a lot of, it's like, how do you, it's like, Connie's being very conscientious of not having, unintended consequences
Yeah.
from the ordinance, obviously. So,
Makes sense.
so none of the caps or limits are sticking at this point, but they're not like gone either. They're just still in discussion. You can weigh in anything that I say.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, parking wasn't really.
So that's just ongoing, like they're just gonna keep.
Well, there's gonna be I think they're gonna get to their final draft. They're almost there. It's kind of just the sticking points on those. Their final draft at the next meeting, which is. And then from there would, go to city council.
Okay.
So,
6 p.m. on the 14th is what I.
yeah, 6 p.m.
Okay.
on the 14th.
Okay.
And the only other thing I had was something I mentioned at the last meeting, which was that our housing production plan expires next year.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, I think last time we did it, the city hired a consultant with close advisory from this committee. I didn't know, like, I don't know, I just want to raise that because it's something that we should stay on top of, and like the state's releasing their statewide housing plan, and we can sort of use that and build off of that.
Thank you for that reminder. We should maybe put that on the agenda for next meeting, to talk about it. I mean, so okay, Jackie, help me. We've
always hired
always
a
had a
consultant
consultant, right? Yeah.
because it's a lot of data that has to be looked at. It's just a lot of work. And we had great success the first time we did this ever with an amazing MPA grad student from the public policy program at UMass. And she was awesome. And so we tried to do that again.
That
The
was
second
not
time, and it
successful.
was not successful.
How did we
um,
finish it that time?
I think we ended up with PVPC.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
PVPC we've hired consultants from PVPC to help us with it, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Okay, would be a great consultant.
Huh?
Mm,
If only it wasn't the biggest conflict of interest, like the number one thing.
Yeah.
So,
So,
and then we had a private consultant this last
Mhm.
time, which was right, like as COVID was happening. So it
Right,
all kind of
right.
like took long. It like started off with a bang and then kind of
Mhm.
like,
And then we're like, oh, we're living in a
I think
pandemic.
Jeff was like begging her to finish it at one point. I mean, it was just
yeah,
took a lot
I
longer.
think Kayam and I could sort of like, so there's a dual master's program with public policy and regional planning that exists, and I'm guessing that there's probably someone who's doing housing stuff who we might, like, we could get, I mean, I'm on campus all the time. I can try and find out if we can identify someone who might want that as an internship.
Because that's free.
Or a
Or-
capstone project or
Yeah.
like the workshop, because I did something similar for my grad degree. So
Yep.
I also think if depending on our timing, right, there will be a lot of data. So the state's going to come out with their plan. They just came out with that other report.
yeah, the Donahue Western Mass one is going to come out in May.
Right, that one's going to come out that Kayam's working on in his work life. And so I do think that there will be a bunch of data to that. So like I think if we did
Yeah.
have a grad student or a student, that it wouldn't be like this huge necessarily lift because there's a lot of
Right.
good data out there. And the city would prefer that we not need money for it.
Or at least not a lot of money, but we do, I mean, we've used CPA
CPA,
money
yeah.
for this before.
Yeah. We used it, yes, for the private consultant, the last one we used.
I think we
yeah.
did with PVPC as well, didn't we?
I think so. I can't imagine the city just paid for it out of its
No.
regular
So-
operating.
In the past, I have done it with a grant, but the grant that would be useful for this, we're applying for something else, for master plan. actually.
Mhm.
All right, let's put it on the agenda for next time so we can
could
really
dovetail
like
with
talk
the
through a
master plan.
timeline, but
Okay,
thank you for
potentially.
reminding us again, Kayam, because I
Okay.
feel like we just did it.
Because we did it as committees this time, and housing was one of the committees. I was just saying that if we're trying to do another master plan, can that dovetail with the master plan so that
Yeah, that's definitely potential for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a great point. So I can make sure when the RFP goes out that that's included.
okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, awesome.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Any other updates? I have a conflict for our April meeting because it's during school vacation week
Mhm.
and I will be not here.
Good.
And I do
Good
not
for you.
plan on zooming in from Florida to,
What's the date of the meeting?
it is April 24th? Yes.
I will also be in California that day.
Great. So let's reschedule.
And I'll be in Vegas. So,
You go to Vegas all the time.
and yeah, twice a year.
The best place for
Did-
conferences.
This year, 4 times.
I'm going to a conference there too in August.
It's cheap to go to Vegas for conferences.
Lindsay, when in August?
18th, 19th, I think, that week.
Oh, I might be there.
Oh,
Brandon might be there too.
I like signed up and then I was like, I had all sorts of anxiety.
Oh, yeah,
I
exactly.
want to know when Chelsea's going to Vegas.
That's why- like,
Chelsea,
I
when
thought
are
I
you
put it
going
in
to
my
Vegas?
calendar.
I hate Vegas. I'm sorry.
I have no money. I don't
get
like
married
Vegas
there.
either, trust me.
all right, so Thursday, April 17th.
Oops.
Yeah, I could have
May
come on the
has
24th.
5 Thursdays in it,
Woohoo.
so we could go.
Or we could go May 1st.
Either of those works. I
May
think.
1st, Chelsea's giving me a thumbs up on May 1st. Anyone else like May 1st? That works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works for me too.
I say yes to me first.
All right. Then I will move it to May 1st and hope I can find a space.
I don't have any soccer.
That you know of.
Their family is my boss, pretty much. They're my boss.
You're helping me
I'm Brian's
out.
assistant. Soccer
Oh.
Soccer
coach.
coach.
Oh,
Having
cool.
He runs a
That's
tight
exciting.
ship.
He runs a very
I
tight
bet
ship.
he does,
It's embarrassing sometimes, actually.
you know.
No fun being the coach's spouse. You're like, oh, okay.
And Sasha went out with the wrong sock color. I knew I was gonna get
Oh,
an email.
yeah.
I knew I was gonna get an email.
That really drives him crazy. Wrong short color, wrong. But Sasha always wears his hair back. That he really
Yeah,
likes.
so good.
Very happy. Sasha's hair is never ends. All right. Anything else for tonight? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Second.
Favor? Hi.
Yay.
All right. At 7:05 p.m.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.